Hey, you guys, welcome again to another episode of Leadership Mentorship 2.0. John Barbie, I'm in Richmond, Virginia, at my boy Nick's house. Of course, what we're trying to do is get as many perspectives on leadership as we can, leadership philosophy, um, leadership methods, leadership, just how he addresses leadership on a daily basis. So, my man Nick, known him for about 12 years, met through his brother Kyle, and just have developed a more than a friendship, more like a family. So, Nick, what's going on, man?
How you doing, brother? Thanks
Bro,
for having me.
hey, it's my pleasure. I mean, I can't. With some of the stuff that we've done over the last 12 years, kind of hanging out, we've kind of known each other, got to know each other. Each year has been kind of better than the last year, just getting to know each other a little bit better, which is one thing that I'm going to start talking about is our relationships is the gold standard. That is the standard that we need to live by and move forward. So, just like I said, I've known Nick for the last 12 years. We've hung out, we've talked, we had some very good conversations. But what I do like about this guy is the way he addresses his drive for success, his drive for leadership, and his drive for mentorship. So, Nick, just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're at, what do you do, where you're from.
Yeah, so originally from Atlanta, Georgia. Now living in Richmond, Virginia. I've been here most of my life. Family guy, got 3 kids. Background, spent a lot of time in information technology.
Okay.
So got an IS degree, bachelor's degree. Also have a master's degree. Master's degree from MIT, Sloan School of Business. And so I want to fuse together technology and business in every opportunity I find. Entrepreneur by nature.
Yeah.
Always have been. I think I told you the story in kindergarten. I was selling now-and-laters and blow pops. And I got the first taste of being an entrepreneur. And man, I've loved it ever since. Absolutely.
Making that money? That's such in kindergarten?
Absolutely. And my father got in on first grade. He's like, wait a minute, I can buy $7 worth of blow pops and you can make $20? Then I don't have to pay your lunch money? All right. I'm getting a Costco membership next week.
Look, not only your first entrepreneurship, but then your first partner.
Absolutely. Venture capitalist. 6 years old. Wow.
He saw the benefit of like, all right, okay, making this money.
Absolutely.
Man, that's fantastic. So, you said born in Atlanta. I know you guys have been in Richmond for basically
most of my life.
Most of your life.
Absolutely.
Okay. Parents, what'd your parents do?
So both my parents graduated. Well, my mother graduated high school.
Okay.
My father didn't.
Okay.
And so he ended up getting his GED. My mother, she cleaned houses and did babysitting, odd end jobs wherever she could.
Okay.
Worked really hard. She had 3 jobs most of my life. So hardest working woman I know.
Oh yeah.
My father was a concrete foreman, so he helped build some of the highways. And on the side, on the weekends, we would do people's porches and sidewalks and things of that nature.
Okay. Now, did you work with them?
Absolutely.
All you guys work with them? You, Kyle, and Dustin? All you guys?
Actually, so those are my brothers, as you know.
Right.
It was just me, and I think it was because I was the oldest, and I had a passion for it. So, by the time I was 13, 14 years old, I could bull float a patio and brush the sidewalk. Absolutely.
Okay.
Mr. Concrete. That was a business he started in the 70s.
Okay, and then how long did that last?
It lasted until he ran into some turmoil and decided to move to Atlanta.
Okay, I went back to Atlanta.
Yeah, so he got rid of the business. He went to Atlanta to find something new since he's from Virginia.
Okay.
Met my mother and, fell in love, had brothers and sisters, and then he ended up moving back to Virginia with his family.
Okay, good. So, sounds like, where do you think your leadership qualities come from? Where do they come from initially? What do you think?
Man, that's an easy question and a hard one at the same time. It's easy because as soon as someone says leadership, I think of my parents.
Okay.
First and foremost. My mother, she was a very strong evangelist. She was a woman of faith, and she went in the door-to-door ministry, and she would preach to people. And we went with her, and she would always teach us that everything was about values.
Okay.
And so always have to be a person of integrity, remember where you came from, and nothing else matters.
Okay.
So no matter how much money you made, how little you made, as long as you had integrity, that was a person that she said was worth it.
Okay.
And my father, while he was a man of faith, he was always focused on that next entrepreneurial idea. So he says value is about profitability. And so through that dichotomy, I got to, I think, become a person that has strong core values and beliefs,
Okay.
but at the same time understands that, to run a business, it has to operate well.
So you graduated from the Blow Pop?
A little bit.
No, I think your first education comes from home, and kind of what your parents have been through, what our parents have been through. Period is kind of where you get your Northern Star guidance, and kind of like what you're going to be, what you want to do. So your parents instilled those things, your values. So your mom instilled your values in you, and your dad, your work ethic, your entrepreneurial spirit. So yeah, I think, I agree. I think it all starts from home. So talk to me about, okay, so you got these qualities, you're learning these great qualities, high school, college. How was the development? Talk to me about that transition on everything you've learned at home. All right, you're in college. I mean, do you consider yourself a leader?
I do, and I think everyone should consider themselves a leader.
Okay.
I think that while you may not command a large army, where you may not have a lot of people at your job, maybe you're a business owner of one, you are leading by example every single day. And that's a philosophy that I try to take in everything that I do. So my father used to always say, if you're working for somebody else, at the end of every day, you have to ask yourself, is the work I put in today worthy where they would hire me again tomorrow?
Okay.
And he says, you need to ask yourself that if you work for yourself. Would you hire yourself tomorrow for the work you did today? Did you put in enough effort? Did you put in the time necessary to actually think through a problem or drive a solution? Or did you continue to move toward and closer to your strategy and end goal? If you didn't, why not? You need to fix that and correct that. So I go into every day like it's the only day.
Okay.
I forget about what I did a couple days ago. And he would say that over and over again. And I tried to ask myself that. I was in fast food, my first job, the real job.
Where at?
Taco Bell, actually, at 16 years old. And, but, in 6 months, I'd already had my eye on the prize. I want to get to the steam closet. You start stuffing lettuce, right?
Right.
And I think, you talk about high school, that was my first taste of W-2 type work. And that was the first taste of a hierarchy, because everything I did was entrepreneurial.
Right.
But every time I got into a role, once I understood the hierarchy, in a matter of weeks, I want to be him, I want to be her. It was that hunger, just to climb that, whatever that hierarchy was. And it wasn't for more money or more glory, it was just because I wanted to be in the position where I had the answers. I had the solution. But in order to lead, you must first learn to follow.
You have to learn to follow.
And so that was a struggle for me in high school and into college. I wanted to be the man.
Okay.
But you can't be. There's too much to learn. It takes a lot of time. So, I was a knucklehead, but it took a little bit of time for me to learn that if I can follow the right way, people will want to share their knowledge with me.
Okay.
And then I can use that to better my skill set and pair that up with my hunger.
Okay.
To drive to success.
So
where did talk about growth?
Where did the hunger come from? Where do you think the hunger came from?
That's a good question.
When you hungry all the time. You know what I'm saying? You was
I do like to eat.
Hey, look, you're at Taco Bell, so I'm pretty sure you got a discount. But where do you think the hunger to succeed, or like you said you wanted to be that guy?
Yeah, I think it's always been part of me. But I also saw my father working really hard to be the best.
Okay.
And I grew up in an era where there were a lot of sports greats too when I was a kid. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, they would have all those TV specials.
Right.
And you hear about, Mohamed Rashad interviewing people. Yeah, Michael's in the gym, 5 hours before practice starts, 4 hours before practice starts. It was starting to hear how they approach things. Watch my father wake up at 4 o'clock every single morning, how late he worked the day before.
Really?
My mother with 3 jobs, trying to hold things down while getting our clothes ready to go to church service. It was those things that I think it was part of me. It was nurtured. I say it was nurtured.
Okay.
I think part of it's innate too.
Right.
But it was really nurtured by my parents and all those around me. I mean, I grew up in an era where, Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, Mike Tyson, right? You can just name all these greats. I mean, we're living in that era, and their biographies were very inspiring.
Okay.
I had a mentor one time that talked about leadership and being inspired. And he described it as motivation is someone lighting a fire underneath you, and that's temporary. Inspiration is something when a fire is lit within inside you, and that is more lasting.
Okay.
And I think as I got older, You know, I lost my father at a pretty young age. While he was around, I don't think I was as hungry. I had nothing to prove, no responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And when he passed, when I was 17 years old, I think all the fire that he had and the hunger, it was really born within me at a whole nother level.
Okay.
And you know, it's been on the grind ever since.
So you mentioned you had a mentor. In a couple other conversations, I've talked to a couple of people, and they talked about sometimes we seek out mentors, and sometimes mentors see something within you to invest in. Which were you when you talk about your mentor?
I've done both. I've been very blessed to have some really good mentors in life. Started with my parents, my family, uncles, and grandfather. But I've also had complete strangers that saw something in me.
Okay.
My first technology job was at Radio Shack at 18 years old, selling computers and telephones, and a gentleman by the name of Bill Pond came in.
Okay.
And he had his hand closed, and I walked up to him and introduced myself, and I showed him the new $3,000 IBM Aptiva. And so after about 45 minutes, he said he'd take one. So I went to the back, I get a good commission off those.
Right, oh yeah.
I took it off the shelf, and I walked it up to the front, and he says, wait, I can't buy that. I said, well, why not? He says, I don't actually need a computer. I said, well, we just talked about it. He goes, you just sold me on one. I actually came in to replace this battery. He says, do you have this battery? And so I said, sure. So I sold him the battery, I rung him up, he walked outside.
Right.
He stops at the door, he comes back in, gave me his business card, and says, that hasn't happened to me in a long time. I want to know who you are.
Okay.
Give me a call. And this guy was probably, late 50s. And I gave him a call, and we started chatting, and he says, you could use a little polish, but I think you could be great. And he
So
was
he
my
believed in you.
mentor.
He believed in
He
you.
believed in me.
Okay.
And he became my mentor for the next 5 or 7 years.
Okay. I think that's a key point, that sometimes we do not realize the amount of influence we have by just being who we are. And people believing in us, thinking that we could be great, sometimes speaks volumes more so than our actual situation. Someone that believes in you, you just say, hey, I believe you can do this, or I believe you can reach up. And sometimes as leaders, we have to take that first step when we see people, those that we have the ability to lead or to mentor. We need to speak greatness into them so they understand that they can be better, more than where they are. Granted, they don't have to be on the street, they don't have to be doing things the wrong way, but those who are even doing things the right way might need a little greatness spoke into them to reach a higher level. And that sounds like what Ms. Pond did to you.
Absolutely, he absolutely did. And it's something that I've intentionally tried to pay forward my entire career.
Okay.
Whether it's working with the YMCA and the youth, or Big Brothers Big Sisters, or Peter Paul Development. There are a lot of different organizations I've worked with. But it's important for us as leaders to seek that out and to make sure that we are giving each other, giving folks the opportunity.
Okay.
And those other individual leaders, speaking that greatness into them. Whatever it is you recognize, no matter how small the gesture is. There was a kid that opened the door for an elderly couple. He couldn't have been more than 6. He struggled to push that door open, and he held it.
Mm-hmm.
And mom loads him in the car. I went and knocked on the car and I said, can I shake his hand? And I told him thank you, and I really appreciated him with that gesture.
Okay.
And that shows great leadership. And I gave him $1 and I said, go get some candy with this. And his eyes lit up.
Right.
Just because I opened the door? That he'll never forget that moment. It may only last a couple weeks, maybe it only last as long as the pack of candy he buys.
Right.
But those moments, whether he's 5 years old or whether it's anyone older, I think recognition and appreciation just for the humanity of who people are and what their capabilities are.
Okay.
Is part of our charge as leaders.
Okay. We talked about moments yesterday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely a small gesture, what you think is very small, could literally impact someone's life or change the trajectory of someone's life if they were actually going down a different route. Just by you going over talking to a little kid who just tried to open up that door. But what you also don't realize is what you did for that mom as well. Not only did she see someone that had nothing to do with her family, she can't pay it back,
Right.
but you spent time to say, hey, your son did a great job. And then maybe she saw And we don't know what she could have saw to that.
That's right. I mean,
We
maybe
don't
that
know.
affirmed kind of her parenting skills, and in that moment, maybe she needed that. And it's
So-
just that moment. We take the moments to make the moments.
Second, third, fourth order of effect that we don't even know we're doing. But if you have the, like you said, you saw something in somebody, you have the wherewithal or the knowledge or even the passion to pour into other people, knowing that not knowing what's going to happen, but because your gesture is so pure, man, it could impact.
Yeah, I don't believe you can be a strong leader without authenticity. It has to come natural to you. Now, as I've gotten older, it's become more of a passion, and I've done it more intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important to develop as early as possible. But leadership is within all of us, and sometimes it takes other leaders to pull it out. But you have to be authentic. You have to be yourself, and then it starts to come out naturally.
Mhm.
It becomes your default.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as the saying goes, there's what people see, and then there's true character. And one of my favorite quotes is, "True character is your behavior, decisions you make when nobody else is around." And so, while you're making that observation, it's only in your head. Nobody else is around. But how are you going to now act on it?
Exactly.
That starts to show your leadership and your character.
So, what you just learned, what you spoke about, of course, not only this for our generation, but we're trying to inspire the generation coming up behind us, our kids, you know, our teenagers, the ones we run into out in the street. How would you? The message sometimes is lost in translation. Because when we were growing up, social media was not a big thing. How did we get our word out? Well, we got our word out through word of mouth. I told you, you told a couple people, and then they figured it out. Now, we could do a video, a 15, 20-minute video, and reach thousands in seconds.
Absolutely.
So how do you speak to that generation coming up behind us in regards to leadership, mentorship, and kind of moving forward? Because I think sometimes it's lost. Or maybe they're translating it differently. Because what we're used to is the hands-on. I'm gonna grab you, I'm gonna take you with you, I'm gonna take you with me, I'm gonna show you what true leadership is. How do we speak that word to the generation following us?
That's a good question. I think the gist of what you're saying is the circle of influence is different. So when I was 17, 16 years old, my parents were around, my grandparents, a couple teachers,
Mhm.
and those were the people who showed me what leadership was. They were
Okay.
the ones who taught me. The circle of influence now is the entire globe. And you have the internet, you've got social media, and social media is even evolving every day, whether it's Snapchat or TikTok or
Yep.
the next thing. And so, I guess the challenge to people out there is there's going to be a lot of influence in the wrong direction. It's incumbent upon us to make sure that we're influencing in a positive direction.
Exactly.
So we can't just sit back and say, well, I'm not going to use the new medium to teach leadership. We have to use a new medium so that we can reach as many lives and people as possible to give a message.
I can't tell you how many, there's probably a percentage out there of how many hours people spend on the internet.
Only imagine.
I would say, I would call it being entertained,
Right.
but I would more so say being lulled into an area of not moving forward or not progressing. Because if you're just being entertained, you're really not using your mind to really get your message out. You just like a vegetable, just watching TikTok videos, YouTube. So I think it's very important that we figure out a medium that works to get the word out.
Yeah, agreed.
Leadership. So if you had 3 words to describe your leadership philosophy, your method, who you are as a leader, what would those 3 words be?
Character, accountability, and consistency.
Okay, explain the 3. Explain it.
Character, as I mentioned earlier, is who you are when nobody's looking.
Okay.
Showing up. I would say accountability, being able to raise your hand when something's your fault, and being accountable for your actions. I mean, that means discipline. I mean, one of the most important things is to have delayed gratification, be able to have some sort of discipline.
Is that possible nowadays?
It's hard because everything's so immediate.
It is.
But when you're patient or you actually practice that, you're able. It's like any other muscle. You have to build a muscle memory
True.
on what it takes to be disciplined. So you can't eat everything you see. You can't speak to everyone any way you want, or the first thought that comes to your mind. You have to be measured. You have to be disciplined. It takes time, but it's like any other muscle, man. If you work it out,
Yeah.
you'll get there. You'll get there.
It's a level of strength to be able to know when to speak, know when to not only strength, but being educated as well, knowing when to say what, because sometimes we want to say the first thing pops in our heads, and it may not be the right thing to say, because if you're always wanting to influence, inspire, and motivate, then maybe some of the things out of your mouth may not do that. So you have to kind of, all right, let me see, how can I, this is how I'm feeling, but how can I say it in a way that I'm not taking away or disrespecting or down, talking bad about this person. It takes a amount of strength and smartness to do that.
It does, and not everything needs to be addressed. My father used to say that to me all the time. Not everything needs to be addressed, son. I always wanted to talk back, I always wanted to respond. And sometimes you have to be the man, but sometimes you have to be the bigger man.
True.
And so that speaks to that control.
Okay.
And the last principle I mentioned is consistency. You are what you repeatedly do. And so by performing, being of high character, integrity, by leading consistently, it becomes who you are. It becomes part of your legacy, how people see you, how people define you.
Okay.
So it's something you continuously do. It's not a singular act. So
Okay.
that's something that's very important to me.
Okay. Well, that's excellent. It's so funny because when I brought this up to other people, like, what is your 3 things? People assume that everybody's gonna say the same thing. It's never the same thing, because all of our stories are different. We come from different backgrounds. We value different things. Our perspectives are different. So, that's fantastic. Character, accountability, and consistency. Fantastic. So your the last question that one of my boys brought up, and I think it's a great question to end on, and to get your feedback, is: are leaders born or are they developed?
I think leaders are developed. In fact, I believe that very strongly. Nature versus nurture, we talk about it in everything that we do, but you are what you repeatedly do.
Okay.
And if you continue to practice and you continue to lead, you do so with consistency, over time you become a better leader. As you get older, you become more mature, you have better perspective or wider perspective on things. It takes time, and you need that mentorship. You need to give back and have mentees as you continue to grow. It's super important. But definitely they're developed.
Okay.
And at every stage they're developed.
Okay.
I mean, I can't tell you the number of kids that I've worked with in some of these programs where no one's ever told them they were a leader. No one's ever told them that they could do the impossible, or that they could be a lawyer, or that they're going to graduate with honors. They've never even heard those words. They've never been spoken, so they think it's impossible. And just to see how big their eyes get when someone can tell you that, I see in you what the possibilities are, that is special. And even if it's just a moment,
Okay.
and it's not a parent-child relationship, even if it's just a moment, it's just as important to share that and help grow them, because it takes a village.
Okay.
It takes a village.
Okay. So you said they can be developed, which I understand where you're coming from, but what if I don't have the capacity or the propensity or the knowledge that I think I'm a leader? I'm just, a lot of my guys that I work with now, they're great behind a computer. They're IT smart, which is very important with what I do. And some of them just don't want to be, I don't want to be in the spotlight. So can they be developed as well, or not? Or it just kind of depends?
I mean, so I would say, it depends on how you define leadership. If you define leadership as a secular job with authority over certain, other people, maybe not everyone wants that or has the capability to do that. But when you think about leadership, as we defined it at the very beginning, as I've been defining it in my career, as leading yourself and leading others, you're still leading. So if they're coming to work on time, if they're in meetings and showing up in a positive way, assuming positive intent and being collaborative with their team members, they are leading by example. And as a result, their leadership of self is drawing better talent to the company,
Okay.
is retaining talent on the team, is making the team more satisfied. The team then becomes more productive. They become a family. They start to work together. Self-leadership is just as important.
Okay. So basically, I don't have to be in front of people, leading them to the fight to be a leader. I could be a leader just by going to work every day and being the example of what people need to see.
Playing your part. Playing your part.
Everybody
So
has a
that,
part.
yeah, so everyone has a part to play. And this ain't a dress rehearsal.
Right.
This is the only chance we get, so make it count.
Okay. Man, I mean, we've had some great talks, and we talked just about a little bit about everything. I don't think I've ever got your perspective on leadership, but what I have done is observe the way you handle yourself, your kids, your family, and your job. I've seen that, and even your drive of what you're trying to pursue and trying to get things done. You're always progressing, moving forward. So yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time. Again, this is my boy Nick Harris. We're in Richmond, Virginia. Able to get him at his house. Just a conversation, just real conversation about leadership and mentorship. Thank you for viewing in. Of course, we're going to do a lot more. And like I've said, please comment in the Facebook group. And also, post stuff, list stuff, things that you've learned about your perspective and your philosophy. Again, my boy, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Talk to you.
It's been a pleasure, brother. Thank you.